Yeah, look, I was gonna say, interesting enough, the Starlink in Lesotho, man.
Oh, and just not, yeah.
and they are happy in Lesotho.
Sorry, Tito, why are you saying the Starlink in Lesotho?
They fix bag.
What is the Starlink? What do I have to do with this?
He's thinking about himself once again.
But anyway, the Starlink thing, right? I think the angle that the guys are using now is more from a crime prevention perspective.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's the outcome of the conversation we didn't hear. It's something along the lines of
satellites.
Let's speed up this thing. We're gonna get satellites. We're talking about it just now with the cameras in our streets. And how it has helped the likes of ADT and all of those guys with crime prevention in certain areas, because there's central command places that ping number plates and all sorts of things. Obviously, we know the Gauteng highway as well has the same infrastructure, and then rolling those things out in certain areas where, for example, they said drones have helped in gang fights and whatever. So if you have those kind of things, I don't know if it's gonna help, but obviously we'll see whether it does help or not. But there's a concern around the state security effectively, where guys in America would be able to know where you are at all times.
Welcome to episode 29 of the Business Agenda podcast. My name is Cash, also known as Uncle Cash. I am joined by my fellow co-hosts. We've got Nico, also known as Nick Swagger, Itumeleng Mojaki, the man himself, Maizito, in-house Shadow Minister of Finance. I always like to give him the whole list of titles. And the man who's repping army fatigue, soldiers at war. He came prepared for war. All the shots in the tug for the sports section. Teaser, aka Vana _ T.
I'm here to fight with all the United people.
The
army's on.
Locked and loaded. I think Spoo missed he missed the red by not recording at this spot.
Defending number 16.
Hey, bro.
That's why we know it's Spoo's house today.
I think let's go easy on Mr. Spoo, but shout out to Spoo for hosting us for the last episode. I had to lay the runway for you, bro.
Man.
That encouraging him.
Man's like, yo, bro.
Hey, bro, Mendem.
You alright, bro? Fresh up. You were in London, didn't it?
Yeah. I was out in the UK. Back, happy to be back home.
How was the trip? You were there for how long?
A week.
Okay.
I actually left last week this time, so a week.
Oh, nice.
But it was more business than pleasure. I tried to squeeze in pleasure here and there, but mostly.
So you managed to squeeze in a run as well?
Yeah, you know me, man.
Repping team.
This member of the podcast.
I think we might want
This member of the podcast.
That's true.
Yeah, well, okay. I've seen your Nike run kilometers. I'm not going to argue that, but
Yeah, so it was good, man. Quick one. Being in the UK made me realize what we could be as SA, because it's the closest place outside of SA from a development country perspective that I think. Obviously, they were influenced by us. We were influenced by them. I mean, so you see a lot of SA type of things.
Yeah, from a
in
British
the UK,
colony, yeah.
And then it just shows what we really, really, really could have been, or what we still can be.
If our brand date stayed a bit longer.
Definitely not saying that.
If they were willing to share,
Therein lies the challenge, the inability to share. But you are right.
How's the weather?
The weather wasn't great. It's spring, but it was cold, man. It was cold. No way you're wearing a t-shirt. Although those people
They used to it.
They used it, so they wear t-shirts and shorts.
Surprised that photo where you were running like the sun is out.
Yeah, it was the only day that the sun was out, and then it started raining quickly after that.
Typical miserable weather.
Yeah, I managed to see my first ever Premier League game, which was quite cool.
Oh, the Hammers.
Yeah, West Ham and Forest. Not an exciting game,
but just the atmosphere.
The atmosphere, yeah. It was.
Y'all were blowing bubbles.
Yeah. The bubble.
Why didn't you go watch? Why didn't you go watch Chelsea Moore United?
Chelsea.
1-0 Moore.
I would have loved to watch my team beat Man United, but you know, man, that for me, I don't celebrate victories like that because I mean, when you're playing against teams that just missed out on relegation and stuff like that, you don't really celebrate those.
To be honest,
I knew today was gonna be a great episode. I came prepared. I even went to bed earlier. Like I'm looking for it. I want to be fresh. Yeah, but when did Chelsea? When was that game? Was it the next day?
Actually, the reason why I flew out on Saturday I was gonna catch the Chelsea United game, and then got moved to Friday because of the FA Cup final.
Oh yes.
So they had to move games around. But yeah, the FA Cup final. I don't know, man. Hey, man, a lot of weird things happen. What's happening in Manchester? Crystal Palace. Who loses to Crystal Palace?
Just made simple happy. Like
who loses to Crystal Palace?
At least you gotta give small teams a chance. You know?
Hey.
United didn't take their chances as a small team, so I don't know.
All these London.
Did Chelsea even qualify for Champions League?
We're gonna qualify, Chief. Tomorrow.
We're gonna.
Tomorrow.
Oh, the game's tomorrow.
All the games
are the last
tomorrow.
games.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
But at least you guys are safe, man. Not getting relegated. You guys must be celebrating. Staying in the Prem.
Yeah, you know.
Are you guys in Europe?
That's up.
Is that like oh no, sorry.
You think you guys will get to 15?
How many teams in the EPL? It's 38, right? What's the half of 38?
No, it's 20 teams.
It's 20. Oh, it's 38 games at 20 teams.
Yeah.
Okay, but still, even if they get to 15, there'll still be 5 places off halfway.
What's your coach's name again?
Ruben Amorim.
Yeah, they call him Ruben the 16th.
Don't leave me hanging, bro. Oh my goodness. Right. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
I think we're gonna come back to this one because I'm enjoying it too much. But I think obviously what.
Wait, Cash. When was the last time Arsenal won it? Now that we're there.
Here's my response to that.
He was like, he's like, I didn't touch me too much.
When was the last time? Even Man United in our possession, we won at least something.
When was the last time you guys won a trophy?
We won the FA Cup with Ten Hag, bruh. When was the last time you guys won a
A
trophy?
year before that, the FA Cup, same thing.
We won.
Who cares? Who cares about the FA Cup? Like we can't see. That's look at.
Okay, when was the last time? When was the last time you guys won a European trophy?
You see now. It's fine. It's okay. But here's my thing. The one thing I always say to Man United supporters: in their heyday, they enjoyed making fun of Liverpool about. You guys always talk about the past. When was the last time you did anything significant? Look, here they are.
Talk
about past glories.
Apparently they got 5 million for being in the final. They got paid 5 million, and they need to pay Chelsea 3.5 for Mason Mount.
Yes, because there's a clause that any appearance that Mason Mount is in. Shout out to Mason Mount's agent or whoever put that clause there. Any appearance, Chelsea get 3.5 million.
But at least you guys are in a final. Alright, it's something.
Yeah.
Hey man, shout out to Chiefs.
Hey, how can we forget? How can we forget?
Biggest team on the African continent.
What a team.
Now
We're not fixing the country.
Now we're talking about pokers. Now you can see us.
Someone's catching it at all ends.
The sports portfolio is not performing.
This year,
That was a bad season.
Yeah, shame man. Finally we got the budget this week. It looks like this one is gonna go through, né?
No, yeah, it seems like this one.
The one contested. They complied with the rules. They took public opinion. No VAT increase, I guess.
From the looks of it.
It's not a great budget still. But,
I was about to say, Mazda, like, what's your key highlight takeouts? Because I've heard that sentiment that you just shared that look, we finally got over the line, but it's still not a great budget.
No,
a lot of analysts were not happy.
No,
so the big thing is they said they're not. They said the 350s they are not being renewed. end of March next year. You remember there was a COVID grant of 350s.
Yeah.
So that's gone.
So they removed
unless it's defunded.
Zero rated. Zero rated. They also
they
increased the fuel levy.
And
then now they're gonna try and the G-Africa, remember they took a big amount. They're gonna try and take the remaining. I think it's how much is it? 95 billion. That's but that money is gonna go. There are no sources of revenue. The biggest thing actually, I was preparing for this last week. If we cut deputy minister salaries, let me get into it.
Yeah.
Deputy minister salaries, because those people are useless. They don't do anything. They don't report to anyone. They don't salaries alone. Salaries alone, it's 92,250 million. That's 2.2 million for all those 45 guys, excluding the perks. So you can imagine
they all have security.
If you include the perks, then it goes to 160 something million. Imagine if you get rid of all those guys.
Plus, there's also the small intangibles. Like I stand corrected, but I know at that level, all those guys when they travel, they're not paying. It's free hotels, allowances.
They can take 5 family members for free, but what the fuck, bro? This is too much. Sorry.
Time. Mine is clearly.
It's a business.
Yeah, mine is clearly passion, but I think that's probably the one. But I think in the greater scheme of things, the way I wanted to pick your brain, Maza, is because this budget was contentious. Because the main thing is that we cannot argue is funding is limited because a lot of people will stand on the side of money does not get where it's supposed to. It's pilferage.
Now they said they cut, but it's them saying that they're not spending more on health, education, and home affairs. Where did they actually cut? And the debt to GDP, it's still widening.
What they also said though is, which I found quite interesting. They basically said they allocated more funding to SARS to recoup more. Because SARS is
for the longest time
is obviously our collection agency. But yeah. So they're gonna improve on that, which is quite.
There's also infrastructure spend, but caters are probably selling. But the good thing is that this sucks. What we experience now with whatever happened in the US, the fact that the market and the world actually believes that GNU is it's a safer option. It seems like now it's a safer bet because I honestly don't trust the cadres alone because they go and chow for themselves.
I like GNU, bro.
I like GNU. We have to like GNU now. It's a new reality.
It'll chop and change over time, different parties getting in there.
But what about something like, I heard the statistic on the unemployment rate or the employment rate, the other way around, that a large chunk of people who are employed work for government, and that basically means that government salaries essentially are massive expense. Like the bulk of the bulk of the budget that goes to government departments is to pay wages and not services, and with government not really being like a producer technically, it's tough to basically grow the economy because one of the big issues we have obviously a slow economic growth, high unemployment rate, and those two things create a massive issue.
That's why we talk about what Nico's talking about is or referring to is to help the government. We need structural reforms. The structural the infrastructure spend that they said it's what, $1 trillion. That we need those. A simple example. The ports. If you fix the ports, you fix the rails, your roads won't be impacted that much. Goods come straight, they go from the mine straight to the ports, exports done. You create jobs. You can't, the government, you can't say the government like Panyaza. That was a temporary solution.
Yeah.
You know?
I know I keep referring to the UK, right? So, but the one thing that I thought was interesting was the train systems and
the transport
systems.
Yeah.
And the fact that a lot of people then have small businesses that they run, maybe to fix the rails, to fix the electricity stuff, but everyone has a job, you know, because everything is run centrally from the government or government department or public partnerships or whatever. But everything kind of flows from government enabling small businesses to be able to do work by investing in infrastructure and letting someone else to come take care of it. Someone who can employ 10, 15, 20, 30 people.
Here's an interesting thought. Just to be solution oriented, we were chilling last night with the guys. There's guys that I show with the
Come to the pod.
So this guy, actually this point is not my point, it comes from a guy named Musa's boo. So we're chilling with Junior and them. So Junior poses a question like, fine guys, this is happening now, but we need to be solution orientated now. So what can we do to boost growth in South Africa? This guy Musa, he works same corporate as my friend from the UK there as well. He's also heads up some IT department there. So this guy raised the burden. First thing that the government can do is to reduce the burden, like in terms of like cutting half. How? Sazria. Remember Sazria is a ratio.
Yeah.
Every time we renew our discs, why isn't it a requirement that you have insurance, and then maybe Sazria will manage that money, so that when there are accidents and stuff, we don't have to rely on that. That means now the fuel level will have to go up. Now petrol price comes down. And then every time, let's say your disc is probably $800, now you pay $850 every year. Why can't we do that? And I thought that was like a brilliant solution.
Yeah, because
that to help the government to reducing, because in terms of reducing like expenditure stuff.
Because that solution in essence means that you're not trying to squeeze the pot that's already small, that's already stressed. But I need to come back to a point you made earlier, Maza. One thing I've always been big on is infrastructure is a big thing when you talk economic growth. You can look at China, Dubai, and other places, but I think South Africa needs to be smart with infrastructure. It shouldn't be, because some places when you do deep investigations, they did infrastructure for the sake of infrastructure. Like in China, there's a lot of empty city, empty malls. But to come back to the transport thing, like you mentioned, the ports for me I'm big on transport, because a lot of the things, a simple example that we all know is when things are transported by road, it's stress on the roads, congestion. The things become more expensive, but initially the infrastructure is already there. It needs to be revamped because a lot of stuff that's supposed to, like coal, is not supposed to come from a mining town to Eskom via road. The rail is there that comes straight from the mine to Eskom. It's more efficient. Road is way cheaper per kilometer. That's managing those kind of things and getting people employed in those kind of places does more for the economy than having lots of government employees. Because remember, whenever they talk about employment growth, there are some people who get the nuts and bolts and look at the actual jobs created. A lot of it is temp work. A lot of it is not towards infrastructure. A lot of it is not within the private sector. You see now, so it's like you take all those factors and say this is not a long-term solution. It's window dressing for every time you need to go to Parliament and report numbers. But the infrastructure thing, you change provinces, you create employment. You also reduce the number of people coming to Gauteng, the burden on this province. Like if you fix the road in the Eastern Cape as an example, they've got ports there. Create work so that the whole dream of you have to move to Gauteng, that gets redressed and people can start building their own provinces. That's just one way, but the one thing with infrastructure, it's the level of growth you can get from infrastructure if you're planning around infrastructure in terms of GDP, employment. Those are numbers that make sense as opposed to everything else. It's at a smaller level. And to Nico's point about the public-private partnerships, why I like that, it's like the GNU thing. Let's call a spade a spade. Government is not known for efficiently running enterprises. They have the funding, they can set the laws and regulations where these things can be done, but you need public-private partnerships. The public will oversee that, look, if this funding is an infrastructure project, the money is coming from taxpayers, whoever gets the construction projects, they can manage.
I think the government can, but it's the political. We've got good SOEs like the IDC.
The expertise.
One of the guys that we hang out with, his wife works for that CSIR. So it's the political willingness.
Even those SOEs were set up as a gap for that.
I mean, look, I get it, but I suppose sometimes you have to make the decision to actually say the working force. Sometimes you actually gotta go work in government. and deal with the bureaucracy of working in government. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that's how you can actually serve a country, by actually working for the state.
But you must be competent and be passionate.
No, I agree.
Whilst I agree with you, my only goes, well, we were discussing that with our host earlier, exactly that. Like she said, there's so many of you intellectual blacks, middle class blacks who are qualified. Why don't you go? And I've seen this in my experience in recruitment. If people actively said, I'm not just gonna go talk, I'm gonna go work for a state-owned enterprise, because right in Mazur, some of them are like your IDCs, your SASRIS, they were set up as the ideal middle gap between government and full-on corporate. So people go there, but I think the biggest challenge for me that I've seen, one, is the nature of the beast. When you go into a state-owned enterprise, there are entrenched ways of doing things where if you come there and you're being prim and proper, you're basically taking, let's call a spade, you're taking money out of people's pockets. Even in those SOEs, there are cadres there. So if you want to come clean up audit, accounting, whatever your function is, procurement, you're stopping the flow of people who are chowing, or let's call it what it is. And can you do this one person? No. A group, maybe. And how long? Those are things that are ingrained. It's culture. So like in football, we're talking about football, and not to come back to Manu. Manu's biggest problem is culture. You guys spend money on lots of players, so the culture needs to change. So it's idealistic that you go there. And also the second thing is, like that I mentioned to the host earlier, is how many people who are within the private sector, who are qualified, well educated, especially from the black majority, middle class, lower, whatever, LSM, are willing to get involved in that side of card-carrying politics. Because even if you work for an SOE, you have to deal with shop stewards, you have to deal with unions. If you're coming from a corporate background, you don't care about that, you care about deliverables. But that piece, that human piece of working in SOE and government, tenders, construction, you can't.
I guess we're gonna have to remove it. There's a lot of red tape, right?
That's the culture that needs to be changed.
But you know, the red tape was put in place because of corruption.
To create
the more things you then you kind of it's an unintended consequence of corruption where you can't get a decision this quickly. You can't go get 100K from from one of these small business funds or whatever that you need next week, for example, right? You have to go through hoops and hoops and hoops to get something like that.
And all those hoops you've created basically stages where someone's gonna make something off those hurdles. So I know, like, we always talk about Singapore, and I don't want to keep harping on that example because the reason why people might not always use Singapore as an example is probably the most obvious example where a country with unbridled potential that they were sitting on, they had the same challenges with politicians and corruption.
Singapore is a leadership story.
That's what I'm saying. I'm coming back to that. That's what
you must be willing. It goes back to what you already say. Even when we spoke about it in the last episode. Intentionality and political will. I mean, like if Cyril and the JNU are willing to tackle corruption, unfortunately, it needs to start from the top. You can't start from the bottom.
No.
It's going to take too long.
I'm glad you said that. A great way to change culture, like, quickly. It's like putting your big star on the bench. Then everyone else is, if that can happen to him, I need to get my act together. So with grafting corruption, like with President Torre, or like just taking a stance, that's what they did in Singapore. It's literally a leader who says, and it wasn't like a different leadership. It was the people who were there, but were cleaning out the rot. But the leadership and the will, because ultimately when you do that, you are closing financial loopholes for people. But I believe the one way you do that is make an example of people where we would never think that could happen to them. Because when that happens, and sometimes you see it in little glimpses in other countries, government employees are getting to work on time. People are like, I could be next. But you just made an example of people who are influential, people who are connected. Contracts are no longer going to so-and-so's wife who's a minister. And then that's
because we're talking about that. Who do you guys think is the next plausible candidate for South Africa?
It doesn't be a businessman.
John stays in.
Who is the most likable person across that everybody likes? Like even your real president who likes and.
That's one thing. Thank you for bringing up that point. That's one you can't run away from.
No, I think the people we like, they might not want the job.
Exactly.
So I think Panyaza probably has a shot.
Nah.
I think he has a shot.
Panyaza failed in Gauteng.
But he has a shot. Like he wants the presidency.
But here's the thing about politics.
Nah.
You look at
the thing is, the person you like, he must be like, because like it's like someone said this the other day. Like they said that
I like Ronald Lamola, he has changed.
This one.
Yeah, him and his friend, this one.
So someone said, like, you know, Motsepe's life is probably great at the moment, but if you go for presidency,
it's gonna ruin it.
You lose so much goodwill.
And
you become the face of unemployment
and legacy.
You become face of South Africa.
You jeopardize what you've built.
But what about what is done for CAF? What is done for CAF? Like
that's different. Politics are right.
No, Cash. But check. You know the whole political story at FIFA, like how intertwined the FIFA presidency leadership is, and it boils also to Africa. Then it's like a whole political lobbying that you need to do to become a president, and it goes down to country-specific politics as well. Yeah. So the one article I read, obviously it's someone who's speculating and reaching, but he's talking about Motsepe using that as an entry into general global politics and coming back into SA that way. And they're saying that he tried obviously with Sundowns to elevate Sundowns to a different standard, and he's doing the same with CAF. Now we're seeing CAF under 20 World Cups. We're seeing shout out to South Africa. So stuff like that, where they're saying like probably after a few years after his tenure or whatever, he may come into SA politics.
For me the craziest part about that part, because and I didn't realize, but his party of choice is ANC.
Yeah.
Like, it means he's gonna go campaign.
They're already doing some lobbying for him already.
But for me that's crazy. Like, like you gotta go, because like to be the president of,
you
gotta go compete in ANC. They're probably against, like, for instance, like Panyaza, there's probably KZN guys, you know.
Shatile
might go for it. Yeah.
And see, I think to your timepiece, myself, that's always the challenge with politics. Is while these guys are from campaigning amongst each other, infighting, factionalism, we've got day-to-day bread and butter issues, the economy. So it is crazy, but that's because we've, unfortunately, politics is kind of evolved. I know even in America they have democratic primaries where candidates from each within the Democratic Party will campaign, same thing,
but
to be selected.
We have to get
we need a shorter timeline.
Here's the thing that we.
So I think so. I was gonna say that.
Gender is a reality.
No, but for
the parties have to work together.
No, but for me, the thing is, we all assume the president has to come from ANC.
Yeah.
Sometimes not.
Sometimes.
Because that's what GNU gives. GNU gives. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I was saying.
I was actually waiting for you guys to finish now, because I was saying we're talking under the assumption that ANC is actually going to be the party. ANC has gone all the way to the other side.
I mean, the polls are the current polls that they recently did, it's putting them at, like, I think they said 29%.
Yeah,
it's not good. Numbers are not looking great.
But in fact, I like what has happened here, because what that shows is the lived reality is it's almost a condition where we think the leader has to come from the ANC. But now the GNU structure, you just need. Okay,
you need somebody who
can agree.
Yeah,
exactly. The same way now that they're between both.
I like Jesus' point. It's gonna force parties that want progressive change, like your Action SA as well. Yeah. They're gonna have to consider joining the GNU.
Man, shout out to Action SA.
Action SA
of Tony is.
The name of Tony, she's working hard.
Is it Nandi Paul?
Dr. Nandi Moya. Oh, she's working very hard. Yeah.
And see examples of that.
It's quite beautiful to see that.
It can be done.
It can be done when there's political will. Because Action SA is proving.
Yeah.
And for me, I wish they could join the GNU. We need those kind of people in the GNU.
Yeah. True, because
So what did you guys think of America, man? Let's get to Trump.
Who wants to go first?
The president took a trip to go discuss. It was quite nice. It felt like you know, when you do your board presentations. It felt like seeing the president going for like we are here to discuss trade and He really started really well. You know? We brought him a game of a book of golf.
Look, I'll say this maybe as a starting point. I think the makeup of the team, the delegation rather, from SA, it was smart and well thought out. Because
by the way, I had that. Some of the guys were not there were some of the guys were there at the back of Trump's ask.
These are golfers. Because the two golfers
it wasn't more like South Africa brought them.
No, they had to make way for that. Adrian Gore and the guys, other business guys were there. Like Adrian Gore was supposed to be in that room.
But I mean, concessions were made because he likes golfers and they're great. As someone who's just.
But also they actually represented his interest. Because by the time, like, when was it any else?
When he was talking,
you were like, everybody.
Latif, you need to chill.
The farms are still at rest.
The electric fence and my mom.
Guys, there's no right genocide. It's fake news.
So I must say, guys, like I find it fascinating. Because propaganda still works even in 2020.
Almost
most people won't realize it.
Now it spreads faster.
But the genius move that Elon Musk ever did was to buy Twitter.
For sure, and that's why he bought
that thing was like 45 billion.
That's why he bought
it was crazy. But he knew that you actually drive news with this thing.
And the problem with AI at the moment, right? Intelligent things. They drive a narrative. Like I was saying the other day that people have picked up instances of articles read differently. So you know when you click on Times 24, News 24, whatever. Some articles will be tailored to you, and some will be tailored to you. We'll have the general same story, but different news. Like let's say you are pro the propaganda of whites being killed. It will exaggerate a little bit the same article.
It will fuel
by AI.
By AI. Whereas for me, it will be different. And it's all based on what you're clicking on Twitter, or you're clicking there. So like, and I think it talks to also the quality of real information, which is a problem in America, right? Globally. Because in, like, for example, in America, if you stay in like Detroit or whatever, they'll have their own news little thing from that same specific place, right? And a lot of people will subscribe to that more than international news. And then when Trump says no, these guys are fake news, then they will like write them off even more and push them more towards whatever narrative, because people we read the narrative that we're attracted to what we want to see at the end of the day, right? And that makes it worse on Twitter, where the key focus is the algorithm.
But I mean, I was gonna say it's that, Cash. It's like they planted this story at the beginning of the year, and this thing has caught fire, and now it's running full blown steam. Presidents are now being there to explain, is this thing a thing? Although it's not, the numbers are there to prove that it's not.
What Elon was clever is he got his telling
there's no more like genocide. It's gone now. This morning.
But can you speak about that, man? Like, because the BEE thing, like, you know, I sent you guys the article to show you how Microsoft and Amazon and them, how they did the BEE. They didn't have to give equity. They still 100% owned Americans. But the South African laws allow you, if you don't do BEE, you gotta then invest. And then what they invest in gives them equivalent of BEE. So Amazon invests in South Africa quite a bit. Microsoft also does the same thing. And they do these equity programs that focuses on black people and empowerment. And that's their version of actually, instead of giving equity, you can spend money to empower. It counts equally as BEE. I don't get why Elon Musk doesn't do that. He's actually just being a crybaby. Because you don't have to like, you can actually just, because the thing is the requirements of the license are going to be, if you don't want BEE, you then have to spend equivalent, because BEE would give people 30% call it stake. If you spend money on enterprise development, you achieve the same result.
So part of investing and empowering is saying that your staff as well needs to be black females, black people, empower them.
Even Netflix.
The community where you're gonna be.
Correct.
You need to empower the community. So even I don't know.
He's a crybaby.
He's racist.
It is.
Look, it's entitlement. That's all it is, because you've just highlighted two American corporates who did their research and said, okay, if we don't want to give up equity, what are the other options? And there are options that are already there, and they took them there.
And it's the law. It's not even a loophole. It's the actual law.
But then there's someone who bought. An online platform which he knows he can weaponize to create fake news and then run a narrative. But like, if you think of it, the actual numbers, if you think of it in terms of what's actually happening in the killings, it's ridiculous that we have heads of states traveling abroad. They actually went there to explain and justify that there's no truth, this is fake news.
But no, the trade part they did do. I did see that there's I don't know which motor company that's now bringing a plant here in South Africa.
The Chinese one.
No, the American one.
I saw an Asian one.
So the trade talks are excellent in that sense. Like, I think Ramaphosa's trip, obviously this won't get the highlight.
No, the him reaching happened.
But I'm saying but I'm just saying that the trade will happen. Like, we just, it won't get reported as big as the other news.
But people like salacious headlines. So like Maz was saying, we all know the real conversations happen behind those. Even if you have any political series, it's unfortunate people don't realize that. Look, they're not gonna. What you get to see on camera when the heads of states are sitting is not the actual conversations that are gonna drive policy. Whether it's trade, whether it's they negotiating the end of a war. Like, they give you just enough. The unfortunate thing is people. Like, want to call a spade, it's like Animal Farm, we're sheep and they know how to feed us. They know how to feed the sheep the information that you want to hear. And now also the algorithm where it's going to draw you to what you want to see, and then it's going to continue fueling that. But then behind the scenes, they didn't have the real conversations, and they know how to move and make decisions, even that end up as policy that suits whatever agenda they want to get. But a lot of the reporting was disappointing, even from senior analysts within SA Media in terms of the takeout. And like, that's what you took out from this whole thing. I understand us members of the public fighting on social media, but seasoned journalists, and he was pandering. Why was he talking about golf? Bro, this is Game of Thrones. When Trump is a narcissist, and people know they knew how to deal with him. He asked for 2 golfers, they didn't deny that. It made it less like it could have gone the Zelensky route, but it didn't.
Yeah, look, I was gonna say, interesting enough, the Starlink in Lesotho, man.
Oh, and just not,
and they are happy in Lesotho.
Sorry, Tito, why are you saying the Starlink in Lesotho?
Lipfix bag.
But anyway, the Starlink thing, right? I think the angle that the guys are using now is more from a crime prevention perspective.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's the outcome of the conversation we didn't hear. Is something along the lines of let's speed up this thing, we're gonna get satellite. We're talking about it just now with the cameras in our streets. And how it has helped the likes of ADT and all of those guys with crime prevention in certain areas, because the central command places that ping number plates and all sorts of things. Obviously we know the Gauteng highway as well has the same infrastructure, and then rolling those things out in certain areas where, for example, they said drones have helped in gang fights and whatever. So if you have those kind of things, I don't know if it's gonna help, but obviously we'll see whether it does help or not. But there's a concern around the state security effectively, where guys in America would be able to know where you are at all times.
So how do you guys, in individual points, maybe starting with you, Nico, coming back, how do you think the meeting went?
What the meeting? No, I think it's very it was very sophisticated, but and Trump probably did less of those things that he does in front of the camera. Because what I gather from the phone calls, yes, they did disagree obviously about the genocide part and maybe the black empowerment part and land expropriation that he calls confiscation. Obviously, I think they still did disagree on those things, but I don't think it was a meeting with like a negative a malicious outcome or whatever the case. I think that the solution was more, at the end of the day, we have to give something. Like as in, the guy was negotiating Trump with us, and then probably we said, okay, cool, we'll do the Starlink thing, help us fight XYZ, that type of thing. And then he said, okay, maybe you guys can ease the BE stuff. Already there was announcements, right? On
Look,
so something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, because when I thought about it, it actually tracks back to AfriForums, when AfriForum guys went to America. But even I think early this year, remember when they went there, and then obviously they were talking about the Bella bill and now the recent amendment that allows government to expropriate land for public use. It's for public use, yeah, with no compensation. So I think they worry about that, because I was saying, what's the end goal of these guys? They're basically saying, look, we like things as they are. And that's what they're probably asking Ramaphosa to say, like, why change stuff? But Ramaphosa and them, they need political points too. They're changing stuff for political points. That's what ANC is doing. You know what I mean? So I think the meeting for me, I think the guys are saying, how do you keep these guys happy? Because the whole reason we're here is because someone is making noise. And who's this person? It's South African white people that don't like these changes.
Yeah, and the ICJ thing also contributed with Israel and Gaza.
Yeah. Although he said he doesn't care.
Yeah, but obviously the first ever president to visit the US after he got elected as president was the president of Israel, and that as soon as those things happened,
and America said we basically support Israel.
Yeah. And obviously that's why Ramaphosa kept on saying that we don't really support anyone. We just support doing good. And whoever is like killing people, whatever, we won't support that. We don't care who it is. That's why he kept on saying that point exactly. Saying we're not we're not anti-Israel or whatever. We just want justice.
It's also crazy that like there's a lot of people in America that make money off wars, like the bullets, the guns.
Big time. The military-industrial complex is why America's always been in one war after the other.
Yeah, because those guys, they thrive on that. You know what I mean?
It's the same thing with with prisons. So, Maiza, your take on the meeting, or you want to go last and wrap it up?
I think it went okay. My biggest surprise was, you know what? Say what you want, but it's the truth. Rupert spoke the truth. He spoke what we normally, what we always complain about.
We have a crime issue.
We have a crime issue, unemployment issue.
And, I mean, lawlessness in this country is bad, man. Like, people just don't respect the law. Like it's a big problem.
Yeah, it's bad.
That was going to be my summation of that crux, because very random example, but like one thing I always found a bit hypocritical was that within the people, civilian population, we're very good at pointing fingers at criminals, politicians, sometimes the odd CEO and stuff. But amongst ourselves, it comes back to Tito's point. Laws in this country, people act like they're suggestions or recommendations, even from running red lights. That's a straight court offense. I've seen old white grannies. We act like taxi drivers are the ones who drive badly, but we don't respect road rules. We don't respect women and children. We don't respect rules around paying taxes, whether it's the wealthy, the poor. It's almost like ASAs, whatever. We don't respect laws when it comes to every now and we're so now used to criminality that if a headline comes out that this so-called CEO or politician faked their qualifications, it's a headline for a day because
we're not surprised.
It's become commonplace. So from grievous crimes to porous borders to looting of public funds to lack of safety of people, like it's unfortunate, but most of us in some way, shape or form, we don't feel safe as a citizen. It's criminality.
Can I just conclude? Like, I think what the takeaway from that meeting, I think it went okay, but from Rupert and that lady's perspective, what I got from there, I think it's something that all South Africans need to think about. This thing, if you're patriotic, I mean, like if you put your country first, you will do whatever it takes to make sure your country wins.
Do that.
You know, I see so-called socialists there, Lamula, so that, I mean, like, what was the program supposed to say? Disrespect his president to appease you.
That's the other thing. Like, what's the end goal?
I mean, like, Ramaphosa was there. He had to follow Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa is brave, but I like him, and I think he handled it so well that he even had to stop Trump to say, no, I came with the COSATU labor union leader. Give her a chance to speak. That's leadership right there. So it shows that there are leadership qualities. Most guys are patriotic, but where are the hiccups? Why are we struggling to implement policies? Why are we struggling to? Because if we were competent enough, we wouldn't be there.
I don't know what's going to cause the shift, but we need a bit of a shift.
We need a bit of a shift, but the meeting went well, according to me. Now, for me, I'm happy about the progress. Like Nico said, I agree. It was a business deal. We had to give up something. It's okay.
It's a negotiation.
It's okay. America is a big boy. It's fine. We have to give something. If it means that Elon gets his Starlink so that we can have peace in this country, then so be it. It's okay.
Look, it's negotiations. These are your takeaway overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think same. For me, it's just about. I was saying the AfriForum guys. I think there were guys that are not happy in South Africa, and it's about they want to keep status quo. You know what I mean? Like the Bella thing. The reason they're fighting the Bella thing out of interest, like what that bill is saying is, you know, like right now we still have African schools, and what that act basically saying if there's a school. And the majority of people that go to school, they don't speak Afrikaans. Why should the school be Afrikaans? And African people understand that they are minority.
Yeah. So they want to protect that.
They want to protect that.
Limit people who come to school.
Yeah, because what that act does is if more black people go to African schools, then the school becomes black.
Yeah.
It's pure numbers because if we're not gonna sugarcoat it,
so I think the deals that are being made, we must actually recognize that some of the deals are actually being made for South African status quo.
Yeah.
That's what we'll see.
And that sucks.
That's what we'll see.
Really sad. And there's one thing, sorry Kesh, I don't know, but Parliament needs to summon Solidarity and AfriForum to account.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
To account and tell us where is the white genocide? Where are the numbers? So that if they can't prove that, these people must become enemy of the state. Then we are disbanding that thing. They need to go, Parliament needs to call these people and just because these people spread misinformation.
We have a problem with lobby groups in South Africa.
Yeah, we don't have
human rights activists, and the people who fund them.
Yeah.
Like as in, we need rules around that, proper rules, so that people can see. I mean, there's guys with like those abandoned buildings in Joburg.
You beat me to
you know, you get there, they kick everyone out. The human rights group or whatever is there, put them back. The same guys who with the illegal buildings are the guys who fund some of these organizations and things like that back. So and there's no regulation around it and the power that they have, and they delay processes
and I see that as such an easy win. I don't get why government just change the law because they keep taking them to constitutional court. So if you change the because I mean I think we all understand that you need majority to change constitution, right? I think you need like 75% votes. I think the GNU would do it if it's for the interest of the country.
Constitutional commission.
Like I mean, if there's a party that's gonna fight against the rule that governs those parties, that party must be like saying then they don't care about this country.
Look, we over and above not caring about the country. Like Nico says, then we need to highlight and spot real investigative journalism. Like, okay, why is this party so invested in keeping that status
correct?
That's what we need because there's a lot of like for me like I remember when Herman Mashaba was mayor of Joburg. That's one gripe he always spoke about how whenever you can't reinvigorate infrastructure in Joburg because whenever you want it,
there's always something blocking.
I mean, like as a quick gripe, a building who run COJ into millions with illegal connections. There's crimes that happen there, drugs and all those things. So you want to take like what happened. We saw how Joburg was revamped coming out to the World Cup. That's a good thing all around. It comes back to talk about infrastructure. So why would anyone want to maintain that status where it's dilapidated, it's run down? That's what needs to be brought to light. And if it's the rules around that,
has to be a criminal element.
There is,
We actually drew another World Cup, man. Like, hey, you guys need to pitch for another World Cup, man. Like rugby or something. Because we need a World Cup in this country, man.
But the way things are now, people are like we're probably bigger fish.
Now I think we need to like I think like Cash, we need to get our house in order, and we need to send a strong message to these lobby groups, these people. You can't come and destroy South Africa's image and think that you.
I think
some of these calls for the Western Cape to get secession and be talking. That's
we don't need those towns or Iranians, and then they can just go to the US now if they want.
My medium plan is to retire when I get to 40 and work for myself. And then I think when I get to my 50s, I'll probably maybe go work in government and just make change. You know what I mean? It would actually be interesting, like to work in government and actually work in places where you can actually make a difference.
But we again in government we need proper. There are skillful people, very educated.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And it's frustrating for them because they're trying to to pass these things, and then then it annoys me. Then it goes to the
British,
whatever.
Yeah.
Then by the time it gets to the minister,
yes,
I mean, like, come on, they are very big, and you must look at people who are like assistant directors, at
qualifications, experience,
chief whips.
minimum degrees is like masters in those guys, MBAs, PhDs, smart guys.
Besides even qualifications, some of the guys, if you look at the experience, they've done it at SOE and corporate level.
Yeah.
But they just right now, because of those challenges, they're not getting full reign to. Imagine how frustrating it must be for them. Because also you can't be a lone wolf. It's one chief whip here, one department. You need the full backing. I mean, it's very simple. They need the political minds that talks about. They simply need to make higher level examples. Imagine if within the next thing, people are being called to court. They tend to shenanigans, cadres are going to jail, minister. There are a couple of ministers, a couple of people. Imagine if they make an example, like what happened in Singapore. Then it's not a case of, okay, it's no longer business as usual. I know, Mazi, you hate that whole cost of doing business thing, but that is an inherent thing that as long as it's there, whether it's corporate, state, SOE, government, whatever, it's going to be a challenge to getting the economy sorted, getting things in the right direction.
Judge Zondo said none of the action plan points from the Zondo Commission that took years has been done, actioned.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like I said in the interview,
he gave recommendations.
He said
no one is doing anything about those recommendations.
done.
Yeah.
So imagine someone that.
You know how much how much is that? 2 billion or something?
Yeah.
Something or more, whatever.
Yeah.
But then
Commission.
there hasn't been one thing that has been actioned in the recommendations.
Yeah.
Which then comes back to the.
So you see, these commissions are useless.
No, that stuff is always winning.
No, it's also maybe the commission is okay. It's what you do. Maybe before saying you want a commission.
No, not that. I'm saying useless in the point that they do such great work.
In
that sense.
Yeah.
Sorry to
but if they actually that thing is, that's why GNU is critical, because I think GNU might do something.
Yeah.
But ANC was not incentivized to do anything, because that was
There's not
educating
interest.
ANC people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very difficult for those guys to implement
something that gonna
against
themselves.
And therein lies the challenge. Look, I'll be real quick with that meeting. Look, I don't normally put too much value in the actual stuff we see. The real conversations that happen behind closed doors between, like, if we're talking about Goa, it would be Stenhouse and then probably the head of agriculture in America. That's the real conversation. That's where they get to the nuts and bolts. But I think compared to, it was necessary. It went as well as it should have to just dispel the myth about rumors that are being spread, misinformation. They're the right contingent of people. I like you and Rupert calling out John Steiners, and that was funny. The journalist who asked about that plane, shout out to him, because he just said that was the perfect distraction to get Trump off. And look, people want to say what they want to say about the president, but look, his composure, his cadence, and the manner he handled himself, that could have been a Zelensky thing. JD Vance barely said 2 words. So it shows the difference in when you're prepared, you know what's at stake, and ultimately people in the know, they know that, look, when all is said and done, we've appeased the masses, our voter base, both in America and South Africa, but the grown-ups are going to do the work behind the scenes. And what was the real issue for us to get here? He got his last Starlink license. Watch this thing go quiet.
Oh, of course. Right, next week we will be here.
Exactly. So it served a purpose, but I think for me.
Can I say one point?
For me, I think that at the end of the day, what we need,
I think we can also.
Yeah, we can wrap up. But we just need from post this meeting this year, because look, I don't know how this for in general for people, but what I'm seeing is unemployment. The year started off with a bit of a tough one. We couldn't it took time to get a budget. We need decisions and decision makers, corporate, public, private partnerships, to just start being more intentional and start putting in the work. That's what's required. That's what the country needs. Talks are good, commissions are good, but the numbers don't lie with the economy. Like, we just need people to start making the decisions. But for me, that once the noises died down, that's what was supposed to happen. There was a negotiation between countries. Here we are. We need to move forward.
From my point, sorry, I wanted to say, like, the rand is back at 18. Inflation is contained. Next week is the sub.
We need the cards.
Do what you will with that information.
Yeah, we need the cards. Yeah.
Do what you will with that information.
I just don't know if.
I don't think it's gonna do it.
I don't think, particularly based on how Man United has been performing.
I was gonna say. I just wanted to put it on record. The next thing is the podcast camp. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
we'll probably pick a date and go record and talk to entrepreneurs. I think it will be nice to actually speak to the guys to see how they're surviving in this economy as things stand.
Especially as people who, in my humble opinion, I think entrepreneurs and businesses are a big cog in creating employment.
Yeah.
Outside of government.
So we're gonna do the business part of the business agenda. Stay tuned.
No doubt, gentlemen. Thank you so much. One more thing, please.
Sorry.
Go for it.
I gave him a call the other day. Cash.
Yeah.
You know, and I was speaking my northern English. He couldn't tell it's me. He was like, who's this?
Nico went to the UK for 1 week. Yesterday I gave him a call. He's like, "Hi mate." Mate.
Business class, touch me.
Hey man.
Business class. It's funny. The last episode, I was listening to the last episode. Nico was explaining something. He's a guy that said, "No, bro, don't worry. We live in the north. We understand what you're saying, buddy." So, gentlemen, thank you. It's always great when we record. You know, like so Tisa said, to the viewers, please look out for what we plan to do with more of the Business Agenda podcast in terms of just doing the business and the action of Business Agenda podcast. Beyond discussions and content, we like to be intentional, and speaking with entrepreneurs is something that's important because they are an important facet of the economy. They have their own experience in terms of what's going on, and they have a finger on the pulse outside of the high level discussions we have. As always, share your comments, tell us what you want us to discuss, who you'd like us to interview. We're always open to suggestions and recommendations. Like, subscribe, comment, share the podcast within your circles. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I look forward to watching this episode and future plans that we have for this year. A lot's going on, but we've got our own plans. And we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Sure. Peace.